Howdy there, pipe pals and gals. How's it going, lads and lassies? Well, tonight I'm smoking in that disgusting pipe that I've always disparaged for the last few years. It's a McBaron's. And we're going to be talking about this, lads and lassies, why this is a very special mixture and why I am highlighting it in my opening video right now. Back to the caber tossing and the haggis drinking. Well, it's not haggis, but cheers to you all. I am now on my third day, I'm happy to say, of decaf, complete straight decaf. Those of you who are in the liturgical world know that Lent will be starting in about 2 weeks. Yeah, about 2 weeks. And so I'm going to be, obviously going through the season of Lent. And a lot of times people say, well, what kind of things do you give up during Lent? And I'm smoking. You know what? It's so funny. Okay. It's interesting because although I got this pipe like 30 some odd years ago, no, maybe almost 40 years ago, and I liked it at the time. It's a Ben Wade, but because it's so thin that if you smoke it, you have to smoke this very delicately. And if you don't, what I always would do is it would just get super, super, super duper hot. And it was just uncomfortable to hold. And it just wasn't really a good smoker. It just would burn way too hot. But now that I've learned the art of sipping my tobacco, just kind of not being a priss about it, but just enjoying it and not trying to inhale the whole bowl all at once, So anyway, but it's quite nice. And I think this was a present, a birthday present, perhaps. I can't remember because I'm going, where did I get this? Because I don't remember ordering it, but I think this was a gift from a dear friend of mine. And here's the thing about this tobacco here, this McBaron's. This is Scottish mixture. From the Highlands, the Highlands. What is it? Glencoe. It came from Glencoe. There you go. I don't know where it came from. Great. What I did was it's probably been in there about a year. Okay. I have tried different ways of keeping tobaccos, and the most successful way, I think all of us who are inveterate pipe smokers, that's kind of got a little Scottishness in there. Woo! Wow. But anyway, mostly I just do them in the mason jars. And I tell you what, if you're new to the world and the hobby of pipe smoking, pardon me, let me get a sip of my decaf coffee here. You know, it tastes the same. It really does. But I drink it for the caffeine. We'll talk about that story in just a moment. But basically, if you're new to the hobby and you're wondering, especially when you begin acquiring a lot of pipe tobacco, and you will probably find in your short tenure as a new pipe smoker, new to the hobby, you're going to probably your first year, you're going to probably collect more tobacco than you're probably really comfortable with smoking all at once, obviously. And you're not going to be able to smoke it all at once, and who would want to? You'd like to enjoy it That's the beauty, I think, of pipe smoking, is it's a very subtle, you know, calming kind of a thing. It isn't something you just, you know, almost everything in my life, to would even include, you know, being a padre, is you're constantly kind of, there's an intensity to it. You know, there's this, you know, I gotta get this done now, or I have to get this done right, or I have to go to visit this person now, you know, they're needing me now. And there's kind of a sense of urgency in a lot of things that you do, and that's not a bad thing, and that's a good thing. But when I think about pipe smoking, and this is kind of just dawning on me, this epiphany, if you will, is that it's not ever really something pressing, like there's this anxiety. Well, there may be if you're an early pipe smoker, you're wondering, well, you know, am I doing this right? Am I packing the pipe right? You know, do I have the right kind of pipe? You know, do I have the right kind of pipe for the right kind of tobaccos and all that kind of stuff? But anyway, but for the most part, there's an enjoyment of just, you know, enjoying holding and looking at a well-crafted briar. You know, the craftsmanship that goes into these pipes, they're just by themselves a real work of beauty, I think. And I know many of you feel the same way, whether it's a meerschaum or a briar, or, you know, maybe it's a Missouri meerschaum, or, you know, one of those falcon pipes, or, you know, just, you know, there's just lots of different pipes and pipe styles, and you know, and it's kind of a personal choice that you make, and some people prefer some types of pipes over the other types of pipes. But you know, all that being said, is that, you know, there's not like this, again, this heavy intensity that kind of, you know, you bring to a pipe or something. It's just meant to enjoy, and it's just meant to be calming in many ways. It's just peaceful and serene, you know. And you don't feel like you're having to rush through something for the most part. So anyway, but I think it's kind of interesting that I wouldn't say I was going to throw this out, but I actually was thinking of getting a little box of things that I really didn't want anymore. And there were a couple pipes that I had that were just disasters. There was one that really was a disaster. And I had some broken pipes as well. And some pipes that somebody gave me that, you know, they're not really, maybe they were very, maybe in their day they were very expensive and very, very nice and fashionable pipes for this gentleman that gave them to me. But I kind of thought, well, maybe, you know, maybe I can do without these, because at the time, my collection, when I was starting to really look at what I had, I kind of realized, you know, I got a lot of pipes. I got way too many pipes. So this one had always been, I'm feeling it right now, it's not really that, it's warm, yeah, and if you put your hand on it for long, you would feel it was like uncomfortable, but it's not bad. It's okay. I mean, this part down here, the base, as long as you hold on to that, you're going to be fine. So anyway, so I really liked kind of rediscovering this pipe. And there's another one I've got to look for, and I don't know where it's at, but it's one of my early favorite ones. In fact, I think it was the very first pipe I smoked on my YouTube channel going back like 11, 12 years ago. It's a Joby, and I smoked it many times, and that's one of my favorite pipes too. I think one of my other favorite pipes is my first Dunhill Cherrywood. It's a black one. Briar, is it, what do they call it? Sandblasted. And it's nice. I love it. It's a wonderful little pipe. I kind of call it my Popeye pipe. So I am what I am. But anyway, so hope you're all doing well. Couple of shout outs tonight. I want to also recognize the passing of dear Matches 860. I think it's been 2 years now. I think I saw Northwest Pipe Smoker, Tom. I think his name is Tom. He did a little tribute to Matches and mentioned him, and fondly, I might add. So we all miss you there, John. So wherever you are, light up your heaven and light up your pipe. There you go. I like that. Yeah, I had a the reason I'm laughing is one of our pipe fellows, who's also a Padre. I think he's known as Piper Padre or Padre Popper. Well, you know who you are. Found my other channel, and surprisingly yesterday, I think it was, of all things, he actually watched one of my homilies. I was a little bit, what's the word? It was a little bit, I'll just say I was a little embarrassed, I guess, you know, because being a fellow, not only a fellow pipe smoker, but a fellow preacher, I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, he's probably going to be critiquing my my homily, which is okay. Sometimes it's good to get constructive criticism, feedback. So anyway, but Padre Piper Padre, you know who you are. Nice young man. So anyway, blessings to you, Brother Padre. Want to also give a shout out to Jeffrey. And Jeffrey, I'm not going to use your last name because you know who you are. You just sent me a wonderful link. I've mentioned in some videos, not every video, and I'm not trying to drop any hints either, but you know, there is one pipe, well, actually two, and one's more of a fancy, it's actually a fantasy pipe, to be honest with you. I think they call it a Santa pipe. It's a Santa Meerschaum pipe. At least I've seen some of them. Maybe it's called a Kris Kringle pipe or a St. Niklaus pipe. I don't know, but it's basically got Santa Claus, and sometimes they have like Meerschaum carvings of Santa and his sleigh, you know, and it's real. They're really extremely intricate, and I'm sure extremely expensive and extremely delicate. Although I want to say, in all my years of owning pipes and smoking pipes, and I do have a Meerschaum collection, and maybe I'll bring those guys out, you know, moving every 3 or 4 years, and, you know, it's kind of like, you look at it either as a burden or as Christmas when you move. And sometimes if you're in a place long enough and you get inspired, you actually go through those old boxes and say, okay, this is what I've been looking for in the back of my mind, but it's not a high priority. One case in point is I actually did a little radio show for about 6 months, about 10 years ago. Somebody asked me, they said, hey, I've been watching your YouTube and we're starting a new Christian radio station. Would you be willing to, you know, do a 15-minute radio show once a week on the weekend? And I said, really? Serious? And, you know, now unfortunately they said we can't pay you right now because we're still getting started, but if we go commercial and we go big and your program goes big, then we'll even think about giving you a salary. And I said, okay, but for the first couple of months it was volunteer, and I was like, okay, I'm happy to do it. But I went out and got some semi-professional microphones and mixer and all sorts of cool stuff. And anyway, the radio station, it changed hands. The owners changed hands, and then they never did come back to me. I'm not surprised. But again, instead of doing a video, I did a radio show, and I had you know, all the bells and whistles and everything for, you know, fun radio show thing. So I did my radio homilies. But anyway, I had this really nice mic and everything, and I started thinking, man, you know, maybe I should, you know, try to get that back going, you know, and try to use it, you know. So I said, but there's one device, there's a connector now with USB-C components that I have to have, or in order for it to even work, because it's one of these analog. It's an analog mic, and it has to have a soundboard, so it's because it has to be amplified, which is all semi-professional. Well, it's professional stuff, but it was a smaller grade. I know I'm going too far into the weeds on this one, but anyway, the other day I said, I wonder where I put that device, and if I could find that device, I could get that microphone out. Man, and I'll tell you what, talk about your AM, FM quality. I mean, it made my voice sound silky smooth, just like a professional broadcaster. I mean, I get weak in the knees when I remember the sound quality of that thing. And now with all the new audio algorithms and everything built into things like Final Cut Pro and, you know, all the Apple products, you know, my goodness, I mean, the things that I could probably do defies imagination. But anyway, so I thought, I wonder where that thing is. And so I looked for it. So again, looking for things and then finding, you know, pipes and things like that. And so I think I just need to go through and find my Joby pipe. I know it's there somewhere. It's in the box somewhere. So, but anyway, I've been getting out a lot of these other things that, you know, kind of enhance your life, but when you're moving around quite a bit, and also, you know, problems in the world, and problems, you know, we've had, you know, my last 6 years have been kind of, I've gone from one little crisis, well, not little, but one crisis to another. Back in, was it 2017, the dam in Oroville was threatening to break. Maybe some of you remember that. And then 2 years after that, we had the Paradise Fire. And then a year after that, I moved up here and then completely rearranged my life all over again. And so a lot of things get put in boxes, and even though they're not junk, although I have a friend who would choose to argue about that, but we will talk about that later. But again, some of these things are, you know, they're like creature comforts. It's like when you kind of get to a certain level in your comfort zone, or your habitat, your comfort habitat, you kind of say, well, I'd like to pull that thing out now and play with it a little bit and see what it does, you know, and what I can do with it. So anyway, I've been kind of looking at some of my older things, and so I realized that I had some older pipes, and I hadn't used them in quite a while and hadn't seen them in quite a while. I go, well, they got to be in either that box or that box. And so anyway, I digress, I'm sorry. But anyway, but I was just going to say that this gentleman, Jeff, sorry, Jeff, didn't mean to keep you on hold that long, sent me a link. And one of the things that I've wanted to get is a piano black, or what they call a Dunhill opera pipe. Is that what it is? Dress pipe. Well, it's kind of like, I guess gentlemen in the day, when they would go to the opera down at the Savoy, they would have their opera pipe, you know, and you know, these things are really beautiful pipes. You know, they're acrylic finished. I've never seen one in the estate sale pipes. Now, again, many of you have well, there's been one or two. Most people are very kind and considerate, but I've had a couple of people who will kind of question, you know, well, how can you afford Dunhills, you know? And I have a size, well, I wouldn't say sizable. That sounds like no, I don't have a sizable collection. I have a nice moderate collection of Dunhills, but 80% of them are all estate pipes, so they weren't brand new pipes. So I have about 3 Dunhills that I think are actually brand new to me that I bought, but all the other ones were estate pipes. And I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to say that. I think estate pipes are great. You know, sort of like one of the secrets that a lot of these YouTubers that do, and the people that are into the Apple ecosystem like I am, and I discovered this too, you have 2 ways of buying Apple products besides buying them from a second-hand person. you can buy them at discount prices, either at like a Best Buy, and you look for open box. Open box, you'll get maybe $100, $200, maybe $300. I got a $300 taken off on one of mine purchases a number of years ago, or refurbished. So you could probably buy, you know, a 2020 MacBook Pro if you wanted to go that far, and get a refurbished one for half the price. You're still going to pay good money, but you're not going to pay top dollar. So, and the same is with the state pipes. So, you know, if you're interested in estate pipes, and most of them are very lovingly refinished and reconditioned, so they're just about like brand new. So there you go. Okay, right. So I wanted to thank Jeffrey for giving me that link, and I'll look that up pretty soon. And also not Jeff, but Gary, good old Gary there. Lake Huron? No. New Hampshire? Mount Vernon? I don't know. Windsor? Manitoba? I don't know. I always think Gary, I think, is Canadian, but he lives in America. But he's a Canadian, and so I always think of him as living in Canada, and that's not a bad thing. Go Truckers, okay? Yeah, I still love my Truckers. Going to talk a little bit about that tonight. I guess I'm a little. Well, let me talk about this other thing about the decaf coffee first, okay? So it's been 3 days since my last caffeinated coffee, and I'm happy to say that the horrible headaches that I would normally get, you know, this time of year. Now I'm preparing for the holy season of Lent, and I learned a long time ago that if you start some of your Lenten disciplines early, whether it's your diet or whatever it is you're going to give up, if you do it 2 weeks before Lent starts, kind of like the Byzantines do, the Orthodox Byzantine Catholics do. Those are two different groups, by the way. I know somebody's going to go, what? What did you say? There's no such thing. I go, okay. There are the Byzantine Catholics that are in union with Rome, but liturgically, and they follow the same calendar, I believe, that the Orthodox do, whether it's Greek or Russian Orthodox. So if you went into a service, you wouldn't, unless you knew that they were in union with Rome, you probably wouldn't know the difference. But anyway, but again, that's another issue for another time. We won't even go there tonight, boys and girls. That you talk about controversy. That's fraught with a lot of controversy. But anyway, but we though the rest of us that are liturgical Christians, we go into the holy season of Lent, and it's a time to, you know, set aside, you know, some of our creature comforts and our pleasures, legitimate ones to be sure, and to really focus more intently on our prayer life and almsgiving and just trying to grow closer to the Lord. Okay, so that's what Lent is really all about. Okay, so as we prepare for it's the great preparation for Easter, Pascha. Okay, so but anyway, I have about 6 years ago now, I think this will be 6 years, I started giving up caffeine. Now, it's kind of an involved story, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest version now. I had a friend of a number of years ago, and she used to laugh at me. Well, she didn't laugh at me. First, she kind of seriously criticized the fact that she says, "You're just too weak to give up coffee." And the first year that this person said that, you know, I remember thinking, you know, well, I'll show you. I think I got about 3 days, and the pain was so bad. The pain was so bad, I just couldn't do it. And I have gone through alcohol withdrawals and if you're a serious alcoholic like I was, wow. The very first time I went through alcohol withdrawals, and I'm not saying, I hope it doesn't scandalize anybody. And again, how do you say this? I learned how to drink alcoholically in seminary. Now, I didn't start out to be an alcoholic. That was not my goal. But there was a lot of drinking in seminary, and I had not really been a big, heavy drinker until I got to seminary. And so when alcohol became, part and parcel of my daily life, I quickly went from zero to miserable in probably about a year's time. And then I realized that, I was starting to get, for the first 2 or 3 years, I really, alcohol was, I lived for alcohol. I hate to say it. And I had coffee in the morning and scotch at night, or whatever I was drinking that night. And anyway, I don't want to go into alcohol stories and drunk stories, but I knew what withdrawals were like. And so after I went through treatment and I went through recovery, so for a number of years later, about 4 or 5 years later, I was actually up here, believe it or not. This goes back almost 21 years ago. I had just gotten out of the army. I just got back from Deutschland, and I was put on the road for a summer to do fill-in work for vacationing priests. Actually, I did 3 weeks here, 3 weekends, 3 weeks here, and then the next 2 weeks I did up in Portola, which is about 100 miles away. Anyway, another beautiful mountain parish. Loved it. And so anyway, the pastor there, the priest there, he was already gone when I got there. I just, he told me where to find the key and all that stuff. And yeah, that's right. He'd already been on vacation. But I noticed that he had, and this goes back to like 2000 and, year 2000, exactly, year 2000. He had a Cuisinart grind and brew, wonderful machine. It looked like something from the moon landing or something. It looked very space age, very strange looking thing. But it was, instead of, having your little grinder off to the side and you dump it into the basket after you grind it, this did everything, grind and brew all in one. It's great. And he had a big pot. Remember, it's kind of like a cookie jar full of beans, coffee beans. And I remember thinking, man, I'm in heaven. What more do I want? I'm up here in the mountains and it's beautiful and I have a brand new coffee maker with a big thing of coffee. Man, I am set. I am just looking forward to this next week or two. Well, what happened, and this was something that wasn't the greatest thing in the world. I started drinking the coffee, and about 2 days into it, I started feeling really bad. And I started thinking by Tuesday evening, I said, man, I'm sick. I thought, man, I'm coming down with the flu. And this is the summertime. I said, I'm coming down with the flu. And I started having chills and body shakes and horrible headaches. And so what happened was, I remember, I think by Wednesday, the next day, I was miserable. And Wednesday night, I was in bed just shivering, and I thought, I'm sick. I don't know what's wrong. And I called my dear friend, and she says, well, and the first thing she says, well, you've been drinking enough coffee. I said, oh, that's not my problem. I said, I got a whole thing of coffee beans, and I got a new Cuisinart grinder brew. It's not the coffee, not at all. So I'm just really going through horrible something. I know what withdrawals are like, okay? And so, oh boy. So by the time, I think it was either Friday or Saturday of that weekend, the things started feeling a little bit better. But I remember Thursday was horrible. I think I might have gotten up and said Mass for these people, and that was it. I was done. Went back to bed. I told people, I said, I'm not feeling good. And they said, "We'll pray for you." And I said, "Thank you." Anyway, so I got an invitation Saturday night to one of the parishioners. They have a lot of railroad people up there in the mountains. And this family was very nice, and they were very friendly. And they said, "We'd love to have you over for dinner. Would you like to come to dinner?" I told them, yeah, and everything. So long story short, at the very end of dinner, the guy goes, "Hey, would you like a cup of coffee?" And I said, "Sure, sounds good." Well, drank the coffee, and all of a sudden, within about 30 minutes, I'm feeling great. I was like, "Man, I feel great." I said, "What kind of coffee did you?" He showed me the brand he had. I said, "Oh, that's great." I said, "Father," I forgot his name now. Oh gosh. Oh, well, it might come back to me. Anyway, this father, he had, I said he had a whole thing of beans, and I think I've actually used most of them up. I want to go back, and I was asking him how to get to Quincy. How far is Quincy from Portola? And he said, "Well, it's about a 40-minute drive." And he says, "But that's the only place you're going to find a Safeway that'll have, the coffee you're looking for." Because I wanted to get Starbucks coffee beans. Because the little local store didn't have Starbucks coffee beans. Because this guy clearly made it clear that this was Starbucks coffee beans. And so, I thought it's rude for me to, pretty much, I think I went through a whole cookie jar full of these beans. And I thought that wouldn't be right to, leave him without any coffee when he gets home. That's rude. And I said, "Hey, you used it, now you need to replace it." So I had no problems doing that. So anyway, I go down to Quincy, come back. It's about a 3-hour trip. Come back, everything's great. Wake up the next morning waiting for this priest to get here. Father Dare, that's his name, Father Dare. And he comes in and he says, "Oh, how'd everything go?" And I said, "Well, blah, 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 blah." And anyway, long story short, he was like, he was kind of looking around like, "Did you leave a mess for me?" That kind of thing, like, are you an untidy, messy, slobby person? Am I going to have to now spend a whole day cleaning up after your messes? And so he was kind of impressed that I didn't leave a mess. And I said, "And by the way, I also appreciated you leaving me that coffee, but I got you some brand new coffee. And so you're good to go." And he looked at the coffee bag and he goes, "You got regular?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I only drink decaf." So that whole week I was going through these miserable withdrawals, not knowing it was the decaf. I was not drinking real coffee, not at all. Yeah. So anyway, this person, going back to the person that kind of challenged me, and I remember the first year I tried to do it, and it was so miserable. By day 3, I said, no way. I went into the kitchen, brewed up a big pot of coffee, and I was like, oh, boy. Well, a few years later, I still had this haunting feeling that I failed. And I thought, I should be willing to give up anything, for the love of God, right? So I was in Chico. I think it was 2016. I think it was 2016. My first year, 2015, I didn't. Yeah, in fact, I think we just started Lent just as soon as I got there. 2015. So I didn't do it then. But the 2016 one, I said, I think I'm going to try it one more time. And the first year I did it, and I said, okay, I don't care how bad it hurts. I'm not going to give in this time. And man, it was miserable. I think it took me about 7 days. Finally, the headaches could stop. I would take Advil and try to lie down in a dark room and cold compress and all that stuff. It would eventually subside, but they'd come back maybe 12 hours later, not maybe as bad, but still very miserable. I remember it was about day 10 where I didn't have any more residual headaches. And then I was free. I was like, oh, this is great. So I did that 2 years in a row, went through that misery. And then I think it was 2018. I said to a guy who's a paramedic, I said, caffeine is a drug. And a lot of times when you're trying to literally taper off drugs, you reduce the dose, right? He goes, yeah, that's how you do it. And I said, well, I wonder if that would work with caffeine for me. So I came up with a little system, and it worked. It wasn't perfect, but it did work. And that is, I took a little teaspoon, or actual, not a spoon, but an actual teaspoon, measuring spoon. And I would start off day one, and I do, 9 scoops of regular, 1 scoop of decaf. And then every day I'd step it down by 1 scoop. It worked. I'm not saying I didn't have any headaches. I mean, I did have some headaches, but nothing like I had when I was just doing it cold turkey. So the last few years, that's how I've been gradually weaning myself off of caffeine, and it's been successful, and it hasn't been that excruciatingly painful. Now this year, I thought, okay, I'm going to instead of taking 2 weeks before Ash Wednesday, I'm going to just start the month before, like I think February 2nd. And so March 2nd will be Ash Wednesday. So I said, I'll just give myself a whole month. And this year, instead of doing 1 scoop per day, I'll do 1 scoop every 2 days. And I actually tried that, and believe it or not, this has been the easiest one. Now, what happened was I got a little bit excited I think when I got to scoop 5, and I said, oh, I feel great, because the first 2 steps were 2 days instead of 1 day. But I said, oh, you know what? I think I can handle 1 day. Yeah, I had some headaches. Nothing like the migraines or the excruciating kind, but I did successfully kind of get myself winged off the caffeine. So this is day 3. Didn't have any headaches today at all. So, because you'll still have a few residual, little minor ones. They'll come back and remind you. But once you're off of it, and you're really off of it, it's kind of like, okay. Now, the wonderful thing about all this, and I know I've gone way too long on this, is just simply Easter Sunday morning, or Easter Sunday afternoon, I should say, I have a little ritual, and I go to my dear friend's house, and they know that the very first thing that they will ply me with is a big, big cup of real coffee with heavy cream. And you know what? It's funny. How many people have ever taken prednisone? Anybody ever had to take prednisone? Yeah, they call that the devil's candy, or the devil's aspirin, I think they call it. And because although it does some really wonderful things, if people that have really bad arthritis, or whatever, rheumatism, whatever it is, they say that once they start that, maybe in the initial stage of taking it, for maybe a week or so, all their aches and pains go away for about a week. And so, well, that's the experience that I have when I reintroduce caffeine back into my system. Everything's brighter. The birds are singing. The sky's bluer. The clouds are brighter. All the little aches and pains are gone. So it's kind of like your reward. And maybe it's crazy. You might say, well, why don't you just stay off of it? Well, again, just like pipe smoking, it's something I enjoy in life. Now, I do have a dependency on caffeine, but I guess I'm not totally addicted, because I am able to quit regularly every year now, and I think it's a positive thing. I think it's a good thing. So there you go. Did I talk about? I was talking about shout outs. One more shout out to Gary, Gentleman Scholar. Another card that I want to say thank you for, Gary. Gary makes his own cards. They're designed with a lot of thought. At least I think they're designed with a lot of thought. He has a lot of humor. So I always appreciate getting a Gary card and a Gary letter. Thank you, Gary. Gary and I have talked about this other guy. His name is The Critical Drinker. He does film reviews. And I don't know if Gary's a big fan of Critical Drinker. I like him. He's very cynical like me, and he's Scottish. But the thing is that, you know, he was reviewing Game of Thrones just before I came down. I saw one of his. I've seen it before, but it just came up in my queue, and I thought, oh, I'll watch it. He's very critical, but he's very smart. So he points out some valid things about some modern movies. And the basic critique that he levels at most movies and TV shows now is that the writing is boo-boo. You know, it's just poo-poo. And so that it just, you know, the stories are just not well written at all. There's no character development. And, you know, and he was really, you know, lambasting the final season and the last episode of Game of Thrones, and just said it was a dumpster fire. It was disaster. You know, it was a hot mess. So, but I was thinking that I don't know if there are any really cool TV shows that people are watching that are really good. I think the first time I became aware of this phenomenon that where everybody was looking for, well, I was going to say Lost, and I have never seen Lost, but X-Files. Yeah, this goes back to the 90s. X-Files was the big, oh, did you see X-Files? You know, got to get home. It's almost time for X-Files, you know. And, you know, things like Game of Thrones was kind of like, you know, that kind of a grabber type of a, you know, TV series. So, but I don't know if there's any big TV series that kind of have that same draw and appeal nowadays. I keep asking Critical Drinker to give us his thoughts on Sherlock, because I thought Sherlock was really a well-written and fun and well-acted series about the life. But Sherlock Holmes in the modern world, you know, I just thought, yeah, I'd really love to see what he would make of Sherlock, but he never. I've sent him a couple of little PMs or comments, and he hasn't responded. And you know, maybe that's just not his cup of tea. You know, of course, I don't think he drinks much tea, but he sure drinks a lot of booze. Now that could be just his persona. You know, don't know. You know, that kind of a thing. You know. So anyway, well, let me finish up with just my little concern about. You know, Canada and the truckers, and I know some people probably don't like the truckers, and some people love them, and some people don't even know about them. You know, really, I think there's kind of those three categories. I've talked to several people, and you know, there'll either be, most people that I talk to are positive. There's a few people that kind of raise their eyebrow, and you got to be kidding me, you're actually for those bums, you know. And then, but a lot of people, what are you talking about? Truckers, what's that? Canada? Hate to say it, sorry. Canada? Is that somewhere in North America somewhere? You know. Anyway, long story short, I had a little bit of fun with one of the Canadian YouTubers this morning. He came on and had, his name is Brando on the Go. Anyway, he had a little 2-minute message saying, hey, contact your premier, and you know, let your you know vote and thoughts be known about, you know, ending all the mandates. So I sent him a little humorous little PM saying, so who's the premier of the province of California? So I had fun with that. So yeah, I put my Canadian flag out this weekend just in solidarity with the truckers, and you know, I don't know if some people, I've heard a few people honk their horns as they go by, not a lot, but a few. I've had more, 4 or 5 that I'll hear beep, 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 beep. So I'm sure that they're, you know, voicing they're honking their support for the truckers in Canada. Most people probably didn't even notice the flag, and those that did probably went, oh, what kind of flag is that? Or if the one they knew of it's Canadian flag, they go, oh, well, why is he flying a Canadian flag? You know, it's like, again, they have no clue, you know. 1 or 2 people said, hey, are you flying that flag in support of the truckers? And I said, I am. Actually, it was just one person that asked me. So as of yesterday, they cleared the Ambassador Bridge there in Windsor. And I'm disappointed for lots of reasons. I'm disappointed. Now, don't get me wrong. I support the police, and I know that they have a tough job to do. So I'm not, You know, and in fact, I think most of the people that were protesting, and I'm hoping, now there were a few that were trying to kind of emulate Black Lives Matter and Antifa and yelling and cursing at them. And I mean, there were some people that were doing that, I'm ashamed to say. And then the other thing was, well, I hope you sleep well at night. You know, how can you live with yourself? Or you should be on this side of the line. You know, most of the people that I heard were trying to say, guys, don't be doing that. Don't engage them that way. That's wrong. Just say, officer, you know, we know you got to do your job. You know, we're not here to do anything violent. You know, we're just here lawfully, you know, protesting, which they were. And you know, they were some of them, you know, of course, waving their Canadian flags, don't you know, eh? And, you know, singing "Oh Canada," and, you know, and just basically trying to be a very positive influence, even though they were obstructing the police, and the police were there to basically remove and arrest some of them, if not all of them, and remove the rigs from the bridge. So, and, from what I understand, the trucks are all gone. I don't know if the actual bridge is open. It probably will be open for business tomorrow morning or later this evening. And but anyway, the other thing is I'm very upset, and I'm sorry to say this. I know some of you who are Canadian will probably like to take umbrage with me on this one. But I think that it's wrong for the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, to not talk with some groups and talk with others. That's completely wrong. Leaders have to embrace all their people. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to subscribe to everything they say, but for you to villainize a group of people and refuse to discuss things with them, that is so totally wrong, especially as a leader. To throw political epithets at them, you know, they're racists and white supremacists and Nazis and all these other things. You know, see, the thing was that those two people, there was like one person that had a Nazi flag, and they basically said, get out of here. Everybody in that group that was holding Canadian flags, they said, hey, buddy, who are you? Get out of here. And the guy, and I said this the last video, I won't go into it again, but basically, the guy carrying an American Confederate flag in Canada, somebody needs to give that guy a history lesson. That's all I'm going to say. Has no relevance in Canada. But isn't it interesting that Justin Trudeau led off with, well, seeing Nazi flags and Confederate flags is very upsetting to Ottawans, and we cannot tolerate that kind of mindset, that type of thing. Well, he purposely, I mean, I can't prove it, but obviously he needed those talking points because that's what he led off with. That's like his right fist, you know, saying, well, this is all about Nazis and white supremacists. And so having those sound bites or those video bites of the guys with the Confederate flag, the one guy I saw, and the one guy with the Nazi flag, that's all he needed to say, see, they're all like that. And those two people were plants, and everybody knows it. And they were put there to bring discredit and to give Justin Trudeau talking points. So I'm very, very disappointed. You know, leadership is a wonderful thing when it's done right. When people accept the responsibility of being a leader. And being a leader means that you can't wall yourself off from part of your constituency or part of the people that you serve. Even if you have problems with them, you've got to be open to talking with them. That's something that I have learned as a pastor. It's something that my friend that's an electrician, you know, there are some people you don't want to take jobs from because they're going to be unreasonable with a lot of their wants and demands. But yet, you got to listen to them. You got to, you know, now you have to be able to tell them, I'm sorry, I can't do that. You know, somebody comes to me and they say, well, we want you to do this. And I'll say, well, you know, actually, we can't do that. Or, you know, maybe they might question a decision that I made, and they may be very upset and and emotional about it. You know, and you still, even though like a lot of people in our day and age don't like conflict, and Justin Trudeau, he has the luxury of being able to pronounce things from on high and not have to deal with people. Well, that's not leadership. Real leadership is when you can take the tiger by the tail and you can go toe to toe and you can say, okay, because that's the only way you're going to resolve anything, I think, effectively in the long run. So it's just, it's tragic, it's pathetic that this man is not a true leader. I'm sorry. And unfortunately, even some people in his own caucus are kind of, realizing that as well. He's pretty weak. He's a pretty weak guy. Strong people are not afraid to negotiate, right? Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never be afraid to negotiate, a great man once said. Well, I don't like to brag about myself when I like that. I'm sorry. But anyway, so that's where it's at tonight. I will see what happens this coming week. Now, it does look like the rest of the world is starting to, one way or another, back down and dismantle some of the COVID restrictions worldwide. It's happening. Praise God, And again, if you want to get a vaccine, I say God bless you. Okay? You want to wear a mask, I say God bless you. But when you want to force me, coerce me, and threaten me because I don't wear a mask or I didn't get a experimental gene therapy, that's where I draw the line. And that's where I think a lot of the Canadian truckers are tonight. It's like, hey, give us the freedom to choose. Okay? Maybe somebody should send Justin Trudeau the Canadian Charter for Rights and Freedoms. That's all I'm saying. So I'm hoping that we will see a rebirth of freedom both here in America and Canada, and our countries will get back to those fundamental precepts of individual liberty, because that's what is going to make the world a better place, not trying to be coerced into following blindly down this one world, one religion, one diet. I mean, I guess the vegans are coming on strong, basically trying to get everybody to now subscribe to the Beyond Meat patties. They're horrible. I had some about a year ago. I mean, they weren't totally disgusting, but they weren't good. I mean, just give me some regular grass-fed beef, hamburger. And it's better for you. I mean, the thing is that it's Frankenfood, folks. Frankenfood. I know I'm probably sounding a little bit like our dear Dr. Sean Baker, the carnivore doc, and so I guess I'll go ahead and just say, go truckers. And then also all of you who are interested, however, now I will say this, I'm not opposed. See, I'm open to new ideas. So I'm Dr. Sean Baker and I and some other people, we are going to actually try a vegan diet. And we're going to start on the 29th of this month and go to the end of the month. So if anybody else wants to join us on the 29th and starting a vegan diet, then just let us know, okay? Okay, folks, well, that's all I have for tonight. So, as I like to say in closing, light up your world, light up your pipe, and we'll see ya next time. Go away now!